Welcome to the Hit Show, especially my loyal listeners in the Hit Squad. Here we talk about mastering hit, honesty, integrity, and transparency, and about investing in relational capital to create influence, and then how we wield that to create opportunities to make more money. We also talk about how this relates to a balanced life enterprise and more discretionary time to do the things that you love to do. My name is Stephen Kuhn, and they call me the Hitman. And practically, I'm showing you how to reach a better quality of life. This is why I interview the people that I do, because they have it, and they can show it to you, and you can learn it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get started. Hey, there you are. Welcome back to the Hit Show. Great to have you. Thanks so much for tuning in every week. It means a lot to us. Today's a great day, as it is every day. Why is that? Because we dictate that from the inside out. We dictate our own reality. Isn't that right? That's the Hit Squad. That's what we're all about. Today, we have someone on the show who I see just about every single day on some media outlet, social media, or in some group or LinkedIn. And I got to meet her last year in person in Orlando at the Military Influencers Conference. And she impressed the heck out of me. Been following her since then, had her on a live show once as well. And she's the owner and founder of a company that's selling products across the USA, which she'll talk about in a minute. And she won the Miss Veteran USA contest. She's a mentor, leader, and someone who's constantly on fire. And she's a U.S. Air Force veteran, officer veteran. And I also look forward to meeting her again at the Military Influencers Conference in Washington, D.C. this September. Everybody, Hit Squad, please welcome Charlynda Scales to the show. How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Great. So let's talk about your company. I didn't mention exactly what it was because I didn't want to steal your thunder, because the story of the company is really exciting. So if you want to start there, it'd be great.
Sure. So the company is Mutt sauce. It's an all-purpose tomato-based specialty sauce that my grandfather invented in 1956. His call sign when he was in the Air Force, Korea, and Vietnam was Mutt, for his ability to blend in anywhere. So that's why it's called Mutt sauce.
Right.
And he passed away in 2005. I learned that I got the recipe while I was serving on active duty in the Air Force myself. And I just decided to take it and turn it into a product that is now, we sell it in stores, we sell it online.
And it went quick, didn't it? It seems to me that once I heard about it, and okay, probably didn't go quick, but once I heard about it, it seemed to have scaled quick right after that. Is that sort of, once it took traction, it went off pretty well?
Yeah, so one of my mentors, he told me that we were going to move at the speed of determination. So however fast, however determined I was to make it happen,
right,
it turned out to be a little insane. It was 4 months from concept to first production, and then we got our first account, like small stores account, within the first like 2 or 3 months. So last April, we got our Kroger account. So now we're in 87 Kroger stores in the state of Ohio. So we have the next year to prove through sales, how we should expand with Kroger.
And so how's that? I mean, how is that going as far as growth goes? Are you keeping up with scaling? Are you keeping up with staffing? Are you keeping up with, yeah?
So I recognized quickly that when you get a big account like Kroger, you have to bring in other people. We got picked up by one of the largest food brokers in the country, Feldkamp Marketing.
Nice.
Feldkamp Marketing represents people like Muscle Milk, pretty big nationwide brands, but they give me a report every week. They actually have something synced up with the Kroger accounts and tell me how everything's going.
Yeah, well, that's the stock management. So it's a just-in-time production sort of kind of thing. Like actually, Walmart invented that back in the day, and I think it's now standard procedure all across the board. So your ambitions are to expand the product, to move into more stores, or both, or what do you see?
More stores is the main goal right now. Just want to expand our footprint, because for me, do we sell online? Yes, people can order it on muttsauce.com and have it sent to their front door, but I want it to be something that you can walk into. Anybody across the U.S. can walk into their local grocery store and get the product.
So let me ask you about a trend then, because stores like Toys R Us or Sears and JCPenney, they're all going out of business. What's the grocery stores? I don't see them closing anytime soon, but it seems that people either have it delivered, they order online, have it delivered to their home, or they order online and go pick it up at a drive-through. Now they have all these kind of things, right? Yeah.
So we are working with Amazon Military. I learned that they're trying to start a program to promote a lot of military brands. So I am working to put Mutt sauce on Amazon
Wow.
to make that easier as well. You can just log in with the Prime account and buy some Mutt sauce. So
Yeah. And have it
that's
shipped
the way
on
we're trying
auto
to,
ship.
yes,
Right?
that's
Yeah.
one way we're trying to respond to current trends and
Great.
uh,
Yeah, they have the auto ship option where you get a bottle a month or a bottle or 2 bottles every month, whatever, where people sign up for it, that subscription. That's excellent. Also, make sure you speak to Vendor Central and get listed one time at the top of the entire products line range. That's huge sales right
mhm.
there.
It's a lot of work that I was like, this is a lot more work to get listed on Amazon than I thought. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot behind the scenes, but I respect the process. You know, it's
right.
entrepreneur is learning.
Yeah, it's we sold on Amazon as well a few times. It's a real challenge. I mean, there's companies out there that do it for you,
Mhm.
but you're already, I mean, your margins got to be tight because they take so much, and then you have the FBA fulfilled by Amazon, and you have, so it's not exactly lucrative if your margins not big
Yeah.
enough. So
Well, for me, it's right now we're just trying to get the exposure,
right,
trying to get this in people's hands as much as we can. And I do want it to be an everyday item, so it's not supposed to be priced too high.
right, right,
But the only way to get that to be the margins to be good is with quantity for us.
right. Of course. So let's talk about exposure. You've everywhere. Like I don't have. There's nowhere. I turn on the internet. I turn on. It's like every time I turn on, there you are. What are you doing? I mean, where are you not? What's going
Oh
on?
man. Well, it's about using social media in the smartest way possible because I don't have a team. People wonder like who's doing all it's just me, I do the social media. Um but I have to be smart about it, right? You have to plan your posts. You have to know what the proper time is so people are actually seeing stuff. And then just being smarter about collaborations that I've done in this past year. I would go to everything, and now I actually have less events this year, but I want to make sure they're more impactful when I do go. So,
Well, I guess that's the hard part, right? Get going to all these events, traveling all the time. I mean, you
yeah.
were at the Bob Evans awards again this year.
In New York, they had us, myself and Jessica Harris, we were
Right.
judging. Um,
Oh, you were
yeah,
judges. You were judges.
yes,
Oh, how cool was that? Wow.
it was amazing. But it
Yeah.
was great also being able to see the pitches live. So that was different from last year. We pitched on our video and submitted that.
Oh,
This time you pitched in front of us and we chose one person versus three. So
wow.
there
That's
was,
great. So you won 3 years ago. Jessica won 2 years ago, and this year is someone new.
yeah,
That's so random. Because
Jonathan.
I met you two as the female entrepreneurs in the military, probably the first two ones that I've met,
Mhm.
and we dabbled a little bit in conversation. And then both of you won that competition. That was like, oh wow, I know two of the winners. That's so
Yeah, it was really interesting because when the year before Jessica won, I was doing a lot of these unboxing videos. So here's this fun fact. I love to unbox stuff and I am an Amazon junkie. So I will hold all my packages that I get from other entrepreneurs, try this out. And I'll just wait till I have a big pile of them. And then I would do a video opening it up like Christmas.
oh,
So
you still do that?
I haven't done it in a while, but I actually have a pile over there that I'm looking at it like I should do one.
Yeah.
I had a gift from Jessica from Canine Salute, and I remember doing the video, and I did one just for her. I was like, I really love this product and what it's about, so I'm just going to do one on Canine Salute. And wouldn't you know it, like right after that, maybe less than a year, she won.
She
So
won, yeah.
yeah.
Everything helps, huh? Everything helps. So your focus when we're looking at your business and what you're doing, and then you have the events, and then you have social media. So you're doing that alone. Events take a lot of time because you travel, you're here and there. I know last year you were 3 or 4 days at the Military Influencers Conference, right? And then you spoke as well, I believe, right?
I think I did a couple of panels.
Panels
Yeah.
and workshops or whatever. Yeah, right. So I mean, that's a lot to do while you're running your company, and you don't have a team that.
I now have a food demo team, which people are like, why does that matter? It matters because these I have Kroger, but I have mostly independent grocery stores that I
Right.
started with. The mom and pops still need exposure. And so I have to schedule a lot of demos. That would take up a lot of my weekends.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I hired a demo team, then they go into the stores and do that. Let's see. I did have an admin, and I went to an online, like an online virtual assistant.
Virtual assistant. Yeah.
Yeah. So I switched that up, and it actually has been working out. And then, just really being strategic, just really trying to figure out what I should do. I want to speak a lot more, doing keynotes. I did a TEDx speech this year.
I know. Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. That was huge. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of preparation. I don't know if anybody, who's watching this would know what goes into it, but it was about 2.5 months of
Yeah.
preparation.
Yeah, there's it's no joke to be a TEDx. There's guidelines and they have expectations, of course, as well, and you can't go on there just winging it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So
that's one other thing is like we wrote the speech. I'm like, this is beautiful. Okay, so we got to prep my slides and stuff. Like, what you do know, there's no prompts in your slides. Like, you have to memorize 2.5 pages worth of text. So that threw me off. About that time, we had like 3 weeks left. So yeah,
wow,
it
how'd it go? I mean, where was it and how did it go?
it was here in Dayton, Ohio. It went well. It's up on YouTube. The TED website has it.
Right.
So I thought it went well. I was just talking about the recipe for success that I thought had carried me throughout my time with Mutt sauce. And for me, it's humility. So you just
Yeah.
gotta stay humble.
Does that humility include servantship, providership?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would describe my grandfather as a servant leader. He taught me to serve others. So that's naturally how I like to lead.
Right. And
Mhm.
so speaking of serving, you also served in the Air Force, right?
Yes, I'm still a reservist too.
I thought so. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I didn't want to misquote, but I thought you were a reservist, right? You're a major now. Is that?
Major, and I served 10 years active duty, and then I went into the reserves in 2015.
Wow. So were you stationed just in CONUS or on stateside, or were you stationed overseas?
Bonus, yeah. I was acquisitions program management, so a lot of the stuff that I did was with people like Lockheed Martin and the big government contractors. So it really wasn't a need for me to go overseas.
Right.
I actually asked for an overseas deployment, and they sent me to Washington, D.C. So,
Over the Potomac, I guess.
I was like, this is not a deployment. Okay, well,
I know. I had a buddy in Texas, and he's in the reserves. He said, I got to go offline. I'm getting deployed. I'm like, oh man, where are you going? He's Virginia.
yeah. But not to shade it. There's a lot happening CONUS that it opened my eyes to a whole new world, and I have so much respect for the people who are, because
Right.
we were in a secret compartmentalized information place. So we spent the whole time under the radar for 6 months working some pretty impactful projects. So yeah, even though we didn't go over there, I was like, wow, that was intense. That was like
Yeah,
the most
I bet.
intense ever.
So the question lends itself, if you work for those big names, aerospace, military, and industrial complex, most people will, then it's like a caveat to moving right into one of those positions, but that wasn't your thing.
I did become a government contractor, actually. I tried to do that. And if you can imagine, I just became full-time with Mutt Sauce October 2018. So the whole time I was working a full-time job, either active duty in Mutt Sauce, or I got out in 2015, but then I walked back on the base the next day as a government contractor.
Right.
So I was still stuck in that whole, I need the stability. I need that first and 15th paycheck kind of
Yep.
just messed me up. I was like, the stability just really messes you up.
Yeah.
So
It's like chains, or a fence
yeah,
or a border or something. Yeah.
you got to jump off the cliff at some point.
Well,
But
how'd you do that? How'd you do that? How did you just say one day you woke up, you're like, all right, I'm done. This is it. Or what happened?
I got fired.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's possibly, and it's hard to talk about. At first I was like, I'm never going to tell anybody this because it's so embarrassing. But at the same time, it was the most liberating, best thing that ever happened, because I didn't realize what my number one priority was at the time. I had moved from Washington, D.C. back to Ohio. I was going to give Mutt Sauce more attention because it's here in Ohio. But again, I was addicted to the paycheck. So I thought naturally I should find a job working somewhere as a program manager. Program management is not hard to find a position. They always need program managers. So they offered me my DC salary, which I was like, oh my God, I'm in Ohio with a DC salary. I'm about to ball out of control. Like, it's going to be great. But as soon as I walked back in, Stephen, I was like, it was like a slow death. And I hated that because I knew what we were doing was for a great mission. But every day I walked in there, I'm like, I cannot, like, you could tell from the way I acted, I was not happy. And it was probably around October that I wanted to talk to my boss about, I don't know if this is for me, but she beat me to it because she's like, you've taken off 14 of the last 40 days of work. Like, you're at negative leave. Like, what are you doing? You're just like, and this has happened ever since I started Mutt Sauce. And I don't know if anybody's ever been in this situation is, not everybody's happy for you as an entrepreneur when you are in a workplace.
No.
And they don't understand why you're working if you own a company. Because it doesn't matter what the status of your company is or how much money you make. They think you should be think you should be out there. They don't understand like you're double dipping or something.
Or they want your loyalty 100%. That's the problem I had. I was always self-employed since 96. And I had a consulting company. And so I worked for some corporations for over 10 years as their consultant. Yeah. And so they see you as an employee, and I'm still doing other things, and they're like, well, how do you have time to do that? Like, I'm self-employed. That's how I have time to do that. We have a contract for results, not for time. People forget that a lot of times, that if you're out there and you're working, even when I did take positions that they wanted me for a longer time, I would only say, okay, we got 3 days a week maximum, but that's not the measurement tool. The measurement tool are the results. And that way I always freed myself up from any kind of commitment that they would try to push on me, which happens to, like you just said, to everybody. They will not understand. They want your full, loyalty and attention, all of your work and all of your time. Because most people think more time means more results. And it doesn't in my case.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's not working effectively.
It's a whole button seat. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Every time you pass by, are you sitting at your desk? Like, how is that a measure of how well I'm doing?
Yeah.
But I could understand if my job is to support, as program management support. So it's like, I'm supposed to support the government program manager. And if I'm never here, I can't actually be supporting her.
Right.
If I'm not here. So I understood that. But it was also the wake up call. I'm like, I care about Mutt Sauce because all I think about is Mutt Sauce. And so that's my cue. And she's like, let's just mutually circle a date on the calendar. I was like, all right, gotcha. Oh, wow, this is really happening. But I had to resist that urge to say, okay, I'm going to look for another job. I'm just going to jump in this and I'm just going to see what happens. And we started having a lot more sales immediately because I wasn't turning down things.
Right.
Because normally if something's during the week, I would say I can't go because I have to have my butt in a seat at a cubicle. So,
for you, what were the first days like? Were you like going to just cold calling and running around? I mean, what were you doing? What was the first days like?
I'm a checklist freak. So I would try to make this checklist. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to knock out as much as I can. But I mean, I think it was just the joy. There was something intangible, like this joy of knowing that today is what you make it, and tomorrow is what you make it, and the next day, and the next day. And if you want to take a meeting at a Century Bar at 8:00 at night, but you know that y'all are about to make some money off of this thing, it's okay, because you can start your first meeting at 9:00 tomorrow.
Right.
No one's going to give you grief about it.
Right.
So I'm like, wow, I would rather work 10 hours a day on my own terms than 8 hours on someone else's.
Well, how did this feel though? Because a lot of people who leave the structured job button seats kind of thing true of being an entrepreneur. They still feel that pressure to perform or to be up at a certain time or be productive. Like I have to be moving 8 hours a day, or if I sleep in past 10, I feel like I'm not getting something. Did you ever have that sort of effect?
No.
Good for you.
For me, it was just like I actually became, it was like almost unleashing a part of me. I was working harder. I was working a lot harder, but I was happier. The one thing I did notice is like there's not really days I can sleep in. I'm not really a morning person per se, but I know that a lot of people that work with Mutt sauce, they're like 6 o'clock
Yep.
texting me, "Hey, good morning. Hey, let's do this. Can you give me a call at 7:30?" So I had to be flexible, knowing that there's going to be those times. But I know it sounds hokey, but I actually built in a nap. So
No, I have naps every day. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I actually started taking afternoon naps because I know that there's the people who call me early in the morning, and I know there's the night owls who are like, "Hey, my whole day was full, but can you meet me at 8?" Yeah, sure. So that afternoon nap really helped me
Yep.
so much. I was naturally an insomniac, so I was like, I have to sleep at some point. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I love I cherish my nap.
yeah.
Yeah. And I wake up automatically, like totally refreshed. I love it.
Yeah, it's really great. It's like it harkens back to the elementary school days. Like, why did they get rid of that?
I never
Like,
thought about it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Why do we phase that out? That should be Spain and Portugal don't phase it out. If they still have their
really?
siesta.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
siestas or something, right?
Still to this day. Yeah. Of course, you're eating dinner at 9 and 10 o'clock at night, but I guess.
Mhm. But I like it. It's
Yeah.
like,
Well, there's something to be said for having a routine. There's also something to be said to be able to plan your own day and still have sort of a, like you said, you have a routine now that you get up in the morning, you almost have to, and that nap and stuff. It's
mhm.
it's a lot of people struggle with that. The one thing that I talk to about with entrepreneurs is they're like, yeah, well, I can do whatever I want, but I still feel like I need to do something. Like sometimes you have nothing to do, you're supposed to relax, right? Right? And enjoy life, enjoy what you're building, enjoy the experiences and things. I mean, do you have that sort of crossover issue, or are you pretty good at enjoying life?
I
Looks to me
I
like you can enjoy life.
to mix both things. So I'll take lunch meetings, or I'll, meet someone over an event that's fun. Like, hey, while we're here, we can talk about X, Y, and Z. So
Okay.
you're still kind of getting out, but you feel like it was productive.
Good. Well, we call it the life enterprise. That's what, in the hit squad, we call it the life enterprise. Everything's connected. You can't separate. Well, you know it from the military as well, that you're not two people, so you can't separate job and life anyway. So, um, but I just found it even here because of the time zone difference now. I had all European clients, and then I went online, and now I have all American clients, except for maybe two. So I don't have to get on the phone until 1 in the afternoon,
Oh
because
yeah,
no one's,
it
yeah.
was like 4 o'clock Budapest.
So I mean, it's like, but then I work a little later. So I work till like 7, 8 o'clock at night. So still, it's only about 4 or 6 hours a day of work, but it's still just shifted. And I found it fantastic. I get up, I play with the kids, my wife. I go to the gym, come back, do lunch, and just fantastic. My whole life shifted that way, and I love it.
It's good.
And you can't do that as an employee. You can only do that when you have your own company. Now, of course, you're dictated by the opening hours of the stores probably as well a little bit, or those kind of things. But I mean, it's freedom, total freedom. I love that you peg that
Yeah,
freedom.
it's
Yeah.
really great. And my mother, so she's a teacher and she gets the summers off. And last year I was like, wow, I missed a whole summer hanging out with her
Yeah.
because I was sitting at a desk. And so this summer she's been able to go with me. She went with me to the US playing card factory. So in Kentucky is where all the US playing cards are made. They honored 52 veteran owned companies with a tour, and they put us on their post 9/11 deck.
Wow. Wow.
So I was able to take her there and show her that, kind of like our own girls
Yeah.
field trip,
Yeah.
and to introduce her to people. I'm like, this is my grandfather's oldest living child. Like, she's history.
Yeah.
the matriarch of the family, which is kind of weird right now because to me, I'm like, she's still young. But, it's been great. And to have that family time, you just can't put a price on quality or family.
Quality of life. That's right. Quality of life. I just want to remind everybody that you're listening to The Hit Show with Stephen Kuhn, and we're here with Charlynda Scales, talking about her trials and tribulations in her venture to stop working and move on to her visionary dream of scaling her grandfather's secret recipe into a national brand. That's a big deal. That's a pretty big deal. And you're sort of like handling it with a chilled attitude. I love that. You're like, I got this,
Well, I've always just said, whatever hand that you're dealt, it's the hand that you're dealt. You can either waste time bucking against it, or you could just accept it.
Right.
And I think one thing that I want to talk about, especially when we get to MIC, there's opportunities to mentor people when you go to MIC. There's new entrepreneurs there.
Right.
And one word that has stuck with me, the phrase, is self-actualization.
Right.
And self-actualization is this awareness of who you are, and awareness of what your purpose is. And I keep wanting to encourage a lot of entrepreneurs, because you do have ups and downs. You do have these tribulations. And if you know yourself, it seems a lot easier to deal with times like that. Accepting things for the way that they are. Last year was crazy. And I had all those events, but I was also going through a divorce that half people were like, "You were married?" I'm like, yeah. Yeah. Because, I had to be respectful of his career. He was military, so I couldn't really divulge a lot about what he was doing. And then when it all fell apart, like I left and I was living in this apartment with no furniture. I remember Chris Hoffman
Right.
did a podcast with me, a video podcast, the day after I left. And I was in the apartment and it had nothing but boxes. And I stole a Coleman cot from the garage, and I was sitting on that trying to balance my cell phone because I didn't have internet. I was trying to balance it and talk to him, and he forgot the time frame. He forgot the time. So he'd actually booked me for 10 p.m. And I never said anything.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. I just looked at my phone. I'm like, oh my God, I have a podcast. I'm looking around the apartment like, how can I not let this look
like
insane? Just, put everything aside, because this person he asked you for your time.
Right.
You said yes. Give him your time and give him a quality interview. So yeah, there I was.
I think we spoke too when we did the hot seat. You had I think that just happened because we spoke. I remember that just happened as too, but I think you were at the top of your stairs or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to get real strategic.
Yeah. But it's so cool that you just rolling with it, and that's for me, that's adaptation, adjustments, improvising, just making it happen. And it's about the mission. It's about making it happen, driving forward, onward, upward. And you seem to embody that. Every time I see you, you're smiling, you're shaking hands, you can be like a politician almost, the way I see it. I'm serious. The way I see it, every time I see you, you're out there smiling, shaking, and moving. It's a great sight to see.
You just gotta just look at the things that I think are blessings, really. These opportunities that never would have happened if you hadn't stepped out of your comfort zone.
Yep.
And so all of it is amazing. People are like, you look amazed. I'm like, I am genuinely shocked and amazed at everything that happens. I'm giddy, really, because it's awesome. It's just.
Are you giddy because you knew it was in you all the time and you're finally doing it, or are you giddy because it's unexpected? I think it's the first.
It's nothing my mind could have ever conceived.
Really? Wow.
It's the humility behind it. Like, I'm so humbled and grateful. I couldn't have dreamed this up. I really couldn't have. If I tried, I wouldn't have come out with the results that people have seen in the last year and a half.
Flow state. Were you in the flow state? Just let it flow, is what they call it.
Just let it go, just let it happen. Just let it be. And, it sounds so Woodstock when you put it that way, like, God, I want what she's having. What is that?
Woodstock. I love it. Put some Led Zeppelin, cue Led Zeppelin. So I don't even know if they were there or not, but Jimi Hendrix was there.
The roses and flowers and stuff. But I mean, it's just gratitude. It's just the essence of gratitude and remembering where you came from and knowing what could have been,
Right.
what could life have been like, or look how far that you've come just by trusting
Right.
in things that are hard for people to trust in, which is the unknown.
Yeah. Well, okay. So before we're winding down, but before we do, you talk about that, taking the leap, right? And getting rid of the security factor. What, in your opinion, is the one thing that an entrepreneur, a budding entrepreneur or a side entrepreneur can do right now? Because you see it every day online. I want to quit my job and do this full time. What's the one thing in your mind that's the most powerful switch to turn that from fear to exhilaration?
I think there's a lot that goes into it. And it's, for me, you have to have a support system. There has to be some semblance of a support system. I think sometimes people discount the fact that everyone, your family, your spouse, your children, they're on this journey with you.
Right.
And for me, the financial impact, thank goodness, wasn't severe because I was able to save money throughout the last couple years, plus the Bob Evans grant helped.
Yeah.
But some people take that leap and they're like, oh my God, I have a family of 4 to feed and I have bills and stuff.
How do they get that out of their head and get the direction?
Having that conversation and making sure that everyone around you understands,
Great advice.
the big picture.
Right.
And they know your intentions. I had to tell my own family, like, I'm doing this. This is not a me journey. I'm going to bring everybody with us. Yeah. Some people shun that. They're like, but they're sitting back. They're not. I'm like, no, I mean, I don't think that this was for me. I don't think my grandfather handed this just to be like, I'm going to take care of you. Because he used to talk about, I'm going to buy land and I'm going to build a whole neighborhood and the whole neighborhood will be my family. Like, that was something he would talk about. I go, the whole block, I'm going to walk the whole block and every house is my family member. And I knew he wanted to bring everybody up with him. If he could, he would have. And if I can, I will. What
a great man. Sounds like someone you really want to meet.
Yeah, it was awesome. But I think that having that conversation, knowing that you have that support is key. And then knowing what you're going to do when you make the leap. Like for me, like the checklist, I know all the people I couldn't do a deal with because I was sitting at a cubicle and they're going to get a phone call, before the end of the week. Like, we're going to do a deal. I'm going to drive this 2 hours. I'm going to drive this whole truck of sauce to these grocery stores that I couldn't get to.
Right.
Whatever you got to do.
So let me ask you just quick at the end, then we'll get to the where we can find you part, which is always standard. I want to ask you, so I'm a divorcee as well. Did getting divorced actually give you, I want to say, more of a will to succeed?
I didn't realize, I'm happy for people who are in loving, supportive relationships. And, not everybody's going to agree with me because they're looking at social media saying, oh my God, you guys are smiling, da, da, da. Yeah, I did not feel that way. I didn't feel that way. And that made it so much harder, even when I was running the company in the marriage.
Right.
When I got out of it, I didn't realize how much time I spent making sure his world was stable and happy.
Yep.
Did you do this? And don't mess up that. And preventing conflict. So I was like, that is just a lot that my mind was taken away from just that. And when you wake up one day and you're like, I don't have to worry about, did the dry cleaning get out on time? Did you review his briefing that he's giving at the Pentagon? Did you have to do this and that? And don't forget that he hates this, and don't forget
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, so that did free you up. Yeah, I had similar situations, and it really ended up to the point where I had to learn myself to realize that I have to make myself happy first, and that
Mm,
I'm not responsible for the other person, but they have to make themselves happy, and they can't be responsible for me, and we both have to agree on that. And
yeah,
that's when I found that just total bliss. Literally 10 years now. It's ridiculous. Every day is like we're just getting together
that's
because we
awesome.
have our own lives. We deal with our own things that we need to deal with. And then of course we use each other's support systems as well. But there's that whole, I'm responsible for me. I can't make her responsible for my happiness. It's a guaranteed problem right there. And then
Absolutely.
the other thing we do is no expectation. So when I do something, unless I have an expectation, unless I have an expectation, which I verbalize, I don't have an expectation. I just do because I do. And you'd be surprised, or maybe that, the guy does something and does the dishes and he looks at you like, I did the dishes. And what the wife's like, I do them every day. What's the big deal? And then what do you mean? I'm just, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, that's one of the things that I found out. And it's one of the things we teach in the HIT principles is that no expectation, creating space, only adding value and that kind of stuff. It takes discipline. It seems like you're the kind of person that's finding your way to a path that, man, it's super inspiring. And I'm not just saying this, but I mean, really from the first minute I saw you, I think it was on stage. I don't remember where it was, but then I met you and you're always wearing red. So that always sticks out as well. And I'm like, who is this woman? And it's like this and that, and boom, Bob Evans and Miss Veteran America. Like, Jesus, where aren't you? And then so I was really glad to have you on the show and then to meet you last year. I'm looking forward to meeting you and having you on the panel actually
Yeah.
at the Military Influences Conference, Business Vetrepreneur Business Accelerator.
Mm.
Awesome. So yeah, thanks so much for being on the show. Any last words of advice for anything? It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be business, whatever that you think that moves you the most for the HIT squad.
No, just, reiterating the fact that, you can do it. I tell people all the time, I believe in you. There's power in someone believing in you, and being open to people. I now want to just verbalize that I am a resource for budding entrepreneurs, even ones who are in the thick of it. If you're going through things, because I shied away from talking about my personal life because I thought that would be distracting from my mission, but it actually is something that people need to hear. They
Need
need
to
to
hear.
hear.
You're real.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
need to
you're real.
hear that you're real. You have feelings. You're human. You sleep. You take naps. Like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to be transparent. This was my year of transparency. So still being transparent about all those things, and look forward to seeing everyone in DC. We need to come out to
Oh
DC.
yeah. And 8th, 9th, and 10th of September
Mm-hmm.
this year. This podcast will be coming out shortly before that, so it'll be perfect timing.
Mm-hmm.
Listen up, Hit Squad. You just heard from Charlynda how you can break out of those, the seats, the button seats jobs, how you can break out into that dream you always wanted to live. And, you guys, Hit Squad is everything to me. I mean, these, my listeners and viewers and followers or whatever, you're the only reason I'm here. So, and I really want you to be successful. And as Charlynda said, as a resource, I'm also a resource for you guys. So I hope you listened to her. I hope you got some value from her. I know I did. And we're looking forward to seeing you on the next show. Charlynda, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it. Really, really do.
Thank you.
All right.
Inspiring as well. You and Kuhn.
Oh, Kuhn, that's right. Thank you. Yes, she's quite inspiring. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in DC. And everyone else, thank you once again for tuning in, where we have movers and shakers in every industry that talk about the integrity in business, the honesty, integrity, and transparency in business. And I thank you for tuning in once again. We'll see you next time. And remember that one thing that we all work for, it's all about quality of life. See you guys next time.